Good evening and welcome to the City of Smyrna's Planning and Zoning meeting for December 9th, 2019. Obviously, there's a free raffle that they're giving out something after this meeting because generally we have about a half dozen folks in here for a meeting, but obviously there's something on the agenda tonight that's important to you guys, and we're going to move through it as efficiently as possible. Everybody that's here to speak will get an opportunity to speak, but before we do that, I will do some housekeeping, and we'll get us in our meeting. First, for those of you joining us for the first time, this meeting is conducted much like a council meeting. Presented from staff. We'll have a question and answer session between staff and the board. After those questions are satisfied, we will have the applicant come forward and present their application. At completion of their presentation, we'll have an opportunity for anyone that's in attendance that would like to come forward and speak in favor of or opposition to the application. There will be a time for that. Now, we do have rules related to public comment. We ask that you address the board, not the applicant. And we do limit the comment to 5 minutes per person. So if you would, try to refrain from restating the same thing over and over. We'll do our best to get us all out of here before the Monday night football game is over. First item on our agenda is item 2019-230. This is zoning application Z19-011. This item is to be withdrawn without prejudice at the request of the applicant. Can I get a motion to withdraw that item? I got a motion, Mr. Tom Bartlett. Second, Mr. David Monroe. Please vote. This was more fun when we used to raise our hands so you guys could all see what we were voting for. And then you get the technology involved and something doesn't work. And then you get people upset up here. So forgive us. We all voted? There we go. That motion has been withdrawn 7-0. All right. The next item on our agenda is 2019-440. This is zoning application Z19-019. The applicant has requested this item to be tabled to the January 13, 2020 Planning and Zoning hearing. Can I get a motion to table this item? I have a motion, Mr. David Monroe, second, Ms. Sherry Harrington. In favor of the motion to table, please vote. All right, this item is tabled 7-0 as well. Okay, the first actionable item on our agenda is item 2019-363. This is zoning request Z19 from R20 to R12 conditional for the development. I'm reading the wrong sheet, guys. I'm going to back up. Thank you very much. That was our agenda item earlier today because I'm pretty sure that you guys are not here for the chiropractic office on Windy Hill Road. We're going to move that up to the top of the order, and then we'll get to Buckner Road as quickly as possible. My apologies, and thank you, Rusty. This is item 2019-437, zoning request Z19-017. It's rezoning from FC to LC for use as a chiropractor and office. This is 0.23 acres at land lot 375, also known as 736 Windy Hill Road. The applicant is Truster South Incorporated. Mr. Staubs, the background, please.
Sure. Good evening. Joey Staubs, Planner 2. It's rezoning case Z19-017. Applicant is Truster South Inc. Heard tonight by you, and then it'll be heard by Mayor and Council on January 21st next year. The area zoning map, currently it's zoned future commercial. It's historically been used commercially. However, we're just bringing it in to formally rezone it limited commercial. Around that property is general commercial, limited commercial, and then to the rear is residential R15. So it's compatible with the other zoning designations in the area. It's the future land use map. It's currently Community Activity Center, which it'll remain Community Activity Center. You see all of the properties on the south of Windy Hill Road are Community Activity Center. To the north is public parks, and then to the south is low-density residential. This is the existing property. There's no changes to the property. They're just changing the zoning to be able to use it as a chiropractor and an office. It already has the parking spaces and the ADA spaces in the front. That's the existing building. These are the 5 parking spaces, and then the ADA spaces in the front. It already has a full access drive, and that'll remain. Pictures of the subject property. And then surrounding properties, there's a car wash, and then another non-conforming commercial use to the other side. So staff is recommending approval of rezoning from future commercial to limited commercials for the use as a chiropractor and office.
All right, thank you, Mr. Staubs. Any questions for Mr. Staubs? No? All right, is the applicant in attendance? Would you like to come forward and tell us a little bit about what's going on? And you're not timed, so feel free to take as much time as you'd like to tell us about your application.
Sure. I think Joey did a pretty good job there, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, I purchased this property a year and a half ago, pretty much, and I used it for an insurance business. And I ended up buying another insurance business in the area, and I decided to move my office and to merge those two. And I was left with a property. I really liked the property because I remodeled it and I wanted to keep it. And I started to look for tenants and ran into this chiropractor, Dr. Anix. I'm not sure if he's here today, but we have made a contract, so he's going to rent the property from me and started to utilize it. We have made a 5-year contract.
Very cool. Any questions for the applicant? Basically, this structure has been a business for some time, and we're just kind of getting it into conformity with our current codes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and that way we can mitigate any issues at the business license level. Any other comments? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to open up for public comment. This is a public hearing. Anyone that is here would like to speak in favor of or opposition to this application, now is the time. Really? Okay. Let the record reflect there is no one here that would like to speak in the public comment portion. Well, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion. We have quick hands tonight. We got a motion to approve. Ms. Harrington, a second by Mr. Seagraves. Please vote. This item's approved 7-0. Good luck with your business, sir. Yes, sir. All right. The next item on our agenda, if this is the right 2019-363. No. Dear God, Joel. 438.
438.
I can't read, guys. I'm sorry. 2019-438. It's zoning application Z19-018. This is rezoning from R20 to R15 for the development of 2 single-family homes at a density of 2.22 units per acre, 0.9 acres at land lot 557, also known as 1460 Memory Lane. Mr. Reggie Lopez is the applicant. Mr. Staubs, the background, please.
Sure. The zoning case Z19-018, be heard tonight, and then mayor and council again on January 21st. This is 1460 Memory Lane. It's about a little under an acre. There's currently one single-family house on the property. Originally, it was 2 properties that was at some point consolidated into one. So they're proposing to subdivide it and have 2 new single-family detached structures on the 2 properties. Zoning is R20, and it's a little bit less than 40,000 square feet total. So we're rezoning this to R15 because it doesn't have the lot area to meet the 20,000 square foot lots. Although they're a little bit, about 1,900 square feet each. 19,000 square foot.
19.
Is the surrounding future land use. It's all low density residential, which is 3 units per acre. Is the subject property as it's currently proposed. It'll have R15 setbacks of front 35, side 10, rear 30. It's proposed stormwater detention facilities. We're requesting 5-foot right-of-way dedication on Northview Place and Memory Lane, as well as 5-foot sidewalk. One lot will have access from Memory Lane, and the other will have access from Northview Place. These are the proposed home elevations and a picture of the subject property, and then the adjacent properties. So staff is recommending approval from zoning R20 to R15 with a density of 2.22 units per acre with the following conditions. Standard condition about the composition of the architectural requirements. 2, that all utilities will be underground. 3, they'll be required to make any traffic improvements. No debris buried. They'll have to maintain or comply with the tree ordinance. Requirement for landscape plans, sodded yards, and then the requirement for certain trees. Special conditions are the setbacks that R15 requires. They'll each have a 22 minimum driveway length. The right-of-way requirement and the sidewalk requirement, and then a maximum height of 35 feet. And then the last 3 are just, they'll have to meet fire access requirements, water and sewer improvements will be by the cost of the developer, and they'll have to maintain our stormwater management requirements. And that's it. Put it back. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Staubs?
Hey, Joey, real quick, go back one slide. It says R8 setbacks. I just want to clarify that it's R15. It says R8.
R15. That's a mistake.
Okay, just clarify. Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Staubs? Okay. Thank you, Joey. All right, at this time, we'd like to ask the applicant to come forward and tell us a little bit about the application. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, how are you? It's pretty straightforward. I mean, it was originally developed as 2 lots. We're converting it back, and we're just looking to build 2 single-family residential homes. They'll look really nice. They'll be roughly about 3,800 to 4,200 square feet. Again, looking to comply with all the requirements from the city.
And can you please state your name for the record?
Reggie Lopes.
Reggie Lopes, thank you. All right, any questions for the applicant? Nobody? All right, thank you, Mr. Lopes. This is a public hearing. At this time, we'd like to ask if there's anyone in attendance that would like to come forward and speak in favor of or opposition to this application. Good evening and welcome.
May it please the board, my name is Brian McCarthy. I'm a catty corner, I guess, to the property. And I have to say that the presentation was very, very good, and I had not seen the site plan beforehand. And so in terms of the letter of the ordinance, I'm not sure we really have a leg to stand on in terms of opposing it. However, Forest Hills as a neighborhood most of the houses were built in the 50s, early 60s, and accordingly there were lot sizes that were the reason why myself and my neighbors bought houses in the neighborhood is because of the lot sizes. If this is allowed to go forward, it opens up the Pandora's box for developers to be able to do it to virtually every property in Forest Hills. And the fact that this was already purchased for the price that it was and all that kind of stuff does not automatically mean that the property can be divided into two just because it meets the ordinances and meets the setbacks and whatnot. Because if that's the case, that's the same for literally every piece of property in Forest Hills. And as a property owner in that neighborhood, I don't want this to be a situation where I'm here every other month when someone tries to split the piece of property into two, because according to the zoning, it would, in the site plan, this is something that could be done to almost every piece of property. Other than that, I'd had questions about the proposed site plan in terms of the setback, but that was all answered in the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Anybody else? Good evening and welcome.
My name is Pat Terry. I live at 3305 Dunn Street. Don't live next door to this property by any means. I'm on the other side of the neighborhood. But I'm concerned anytime someone wants to change an R20 to an R15 in Forest Hills, because R20 pretty much defines what our neighborhood looks like. And I just basically agree with the points Mr. McCarthy was making. If any of this, for what this owner wants to do with this property, if some of it could be handled through variances, I would be fine with that, but I would oppose a change from R20 to R15.
Thank you much, Mr. Terry. Appreciate you coming out. Anybody else? Good evening and welcome.
I didn't want to speak about the applicant, but we can't hear anything back there, so can you ask people, do you have a microphone?
Is the microphone right?
Using it, so can you ask people to use the microphone, please? Thanks.
Let's move it closer to them. Thank you for that. Come on. If you want to cut in front of a lady, that's fine, but she's probably a neighbor, so it's cool if you do that.
Right. Hi, my name is Laura Lockwood. I'm the president of the Forest Hills Preservation Group. Just to reiterate what the previous two gentlemen said, in Forest Hills, I think most of us chose that location not for future investment purposes, as we're seeing right now, what's going on with purchases of our houses. We bought our homes because we like the privacy, we like the separation, we like what R20 affords us. And although these homes seem to fit within, and we're saying that the lots are just shy of what they need without the rezoning, you have to draw the line somewhere. So where are we going to draw the line? Where are we going to say, you know the lot size, you know the zoning, you do your due diligence before you buy the property. So why do we continue to see people buy our homes and then they come and say, well, it's not big enough for what I want to build, so can you change the rules for us? If you allow this rezoning to R15, we all know that there's lots of developers and builders and even people who live in Forest Hills right now who are watching this in the hopes that this will open the door for them to do the exact same thing. With the R15, maybe people don't realize that it also allows the setbacks to be less. You're going from a 40-foot setback in the rear to a 30-foot. So the DeCenzos who will be behind this, they're now going to have a home even 10 foot closer to where they are. So, I mean, it looks like a good plan, but where are we going to draw the line? When are we finally going to say, you bought R20, this lot would afford you enough space to build a beautiful $1 million home, which we see in Forest Hills right now? Why are you trying to do something that is not allowed at this time? If this is built, I'll befriend the people that move in. I have no ill will against anyone who builds in our neighborhood, but it is disconcerting to me that we are diminishing our lot sizes. And that is just my question. You have to at some point draw the line and say, okay, you've got to meet these requirements. But everybody who buys in Forest Hills to rebuild is always pushing the envelope. If it's not rezoning, it's variances for front, side, and back setbacks. And, you know, there are a lot of us who, we have a big investment in the neighborhood. My home, I've been in for 20 years and it's nearly paid for. I've made an investment in that neighborhood, and I would like for the city to honor the investment that I have made. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can't do that after everybody speaks, guys. Please, we'll be here all night. I promise you. Let's just keep the applause down. Come on. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off earlier, but anytime I get an opportunity to prank somebody, I got to take it.
I just want to make sure I'm not cutting in front of any other ladies.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. My name is Stephen Connor. I live in Forest Hills. I've lived there for over 12 years. Everything that Laura just said, I would say the same thing. The only thing I would add to that is if you look at like how much our neighborhood has changed in the landscape with all the development, you know, whatever my feelings are about the Paramount development with the 13 homes like on Forest Drive, you know, they were able to do that without changing the zoning. So they did that in compliance with what exists. You know, we've seen that around the neighborhood. And I think that's just my biggest concern is it's a slippery slope where we just keep chipping away. And, you know, we just keep subdividing these houses, and you know, all of a sudden you end up with all this stuff that's just out of character with what the house looks like now. So that's just my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Anybody else? Good evening and welcome.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Chris Zweifel. I live at 3289 Lee Street, Smyrna. I live in the neighborhood of Forest Hills where this rezoning is going on, and I'm opposed to the rezoning. Here's some context about the property. I counted over 30 mature overstory trees sitting on this acre. There are many understory trees too, mainly dogwoods and one of the finest Japanese maples in the neighborhood. The property to the south was redeveloped and has few canopy trees now. The property to the north was redeveloped and has little canopy. Another property a few houses farther north has a brand new house being built in which most of the property's large trees have been cut down. Rezoning this property will not only mean the loss of many trees, but it will also mean there is less green space for trees to be replanted and grow back. Thus, the canopy cannot be repaired at this property. I believe the loss of so much canopy in our neighborhood is inconsistent with the nature and character of the neighborhood. I mentioned this is Forest Hills. How can you have a Forest Hills without any forest? Too much of our canopy has come down due to redevelopment and new developments, and this rezoning request will just make it worse. Thank you.
Chris, what was your last name?
Zweifel. Zweifel.
Zweifel?
With a Z.
Got it. Anybody else? Okay.
Let me make a comment.
You can make a comment.
Is anybody else going to make a comment?
Yeah.
Okay. I've lived in the neighborhood for 30 years, and it's been a lot of changes in there. And the development on Lee Street that's called Stony Brook, the developer, there's 8 houses in there, and the developer years ago wanted to put in, I think, 14, and we fought him, and he built those houses. It's not Stony, it's Stonegate. There's eight houses in there, and there's not a zoning change. Years ago, the White House on the corner of Collier and Memory Lane, a developer wanted to put in 4 houses in there, and it never got this far. It just Wade Lenica and Corky Welch told the guy that they couldn't support it. So that all the development in our neighborhood has been pretty much without a zoning change. In fact, the Forest Hills Preservation Group was founded for the simple reason for the development there at Collier Gate to fight that. We lost that one. Anyhow.
Any other comments from the board? Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Well, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Number 2019-438, zoning request Z19-118, rezoning from R20 to R15 to put in 2 single-family homes, a density of 2.22 acres, units per acre. I vote to no.
Okay, we have an application or a motion to deny, and just for clarification, it's Z19-018. We have a motion to deny. Do we have a second? Motion, Mr. Seagraves. A second, Mr. Bartlett. Please vote. We have a motion to deny, Mr. Seagraves.
Oh, deny. I'm sorry. I hit the wrong one.
We have a motion to deny, Mr. Seagraves. We have a second, Mr. Bartlett. Succeeds 7-0. This item will be heard before mayor and council. Gentlemen, the date? The date this is going to mayor and council? The 21st of Okay, so on Tuesday, the 21st of January 2020, this item will be heard at mayor and council. The reason I mentioned that, there's been some confusion in the past where things have gotten turned down here and people didn't show up at mayor and council, so I just want you guys to be fully aware of that. All right, the next item on our agenda, you guys have heard me read it 3 times, so you probably have it memorized by now. It's 20. Zoning request Z19-016, rezoning from R20 to R12, conditional for the development of a 38-unit subdivision at 2.99 units per acre. This is 12.7 acres at land lot 542. This is also known as 1465 Buckner Road. The applicant is Grant Grimes. Mr. Martin, the background, please.
All right. This is an annexation and rezoning case for 12.7 acres at the intersection of Buckner and Pebblebrook. As you stated, this case will be heard tonight in front of y'all. You'll make a recommendation to the mayor and council of approval or denial. Mayor and council will hear this case Tuesday, January 21st. The subject property is 1465 Buckner Road. It's 12.7 acres in size. It's located in Ward 7. There is 1 single-family home and I think a couple accessory structures on site. The applicant is proposing to rezone the property from R20 to R12 conditional for the development of 38 single-family homes. From a city zoning perspective, the city is contiguous across Pebblebrook Road. The contiguous zoning at on the city level is R15 and RAD. RDA is reflected in green and R15 is reflected in yellow. The surrounding properties to the south, east, and west are zoned R20 in Cobb County. The future land use map for the property reflects a low-density residential land use in Cobb County. It'll be brought into Smyrna as low-density residential as well. The Cobb County's future land use map limits the density to 2.5 units per acre. The city of Smyrna's land use map under low-density residential is under 3 units per acre. The proposed density for this parcel is 2.99 units per acre. With this request, if it were to come into the city of Smyrna, it'd be low-density residential. And as you can see, based on the adjoining contiguous properties, their future land use is public institutional, where Whitfield Academy is located in the city, and then the rest are low-density residential. I wanted to show you this map to give you some context of development patterns along Buckner Road and Pebblebrook Road, and what those zoning classifications are, what their densities are, and basically what their minimum lot sizes. This request is requested zoning R12 conditional, 38 lots at 2.99 units per acre. The smallest lot on the property is 5,000 square feet. Working basically from east to west, or I guess northeast to southwest along Buckner. Buckland Oaks is R20. I'm sorry, that's an error. And it's got it's 0.6 units per acre with a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet. Shannon Downs is R15 and RA4. It's 41 lots and a density of 2.47 units and a minimum lot size of 4,262 units, or 4,262 square feet. Shannon Downs North is R20, 16 lots, just under 2 units per acre, 20,000 square foot lots. Vinings Place is planned residential development, 108 units, 2.27 units per acre, minimum lot size 8,400 square feet. You got Everness Ridge, and that's RA4, and that's 107 lots at a density of 3.3 units with a minimum lot size of 5,950 feet. The Registry Oaks is R20, 13 lots, just under 0.76 units per acre, 20,000 square foot. Highlands Village is R15, 21 units, 2.14 units per acre, 15,000 square foot lots. And Brookmeyer West is R15, open space conservation, and it's 79 units at 1.87 units per acre, minimum lot size 10,000 square feet. And Brookmeyer is planned residential development, 63 units, 1.76 units per acre, 8,400 square feet. Eastgate is R15, open space conservation. That's 20 units, 2.18 units per acre, minimum lot size 10,340 square feet. I promised I'm almost done. I got 2 more, I think. Viningsbrook is R15, open space conservation, 36 lots, 2.26 units per acre, minimum lot size 7,700. And Vining Summit is R15, 48 units, 2.08 units per acre, 7,500 square feet per lot. This is let me go back to that. And that's just to give you context within the area, what the different zoning classifications are, what the different development styles are. So if you look through that, you had a range of zonings from R20 in Cobb County to RA4, and you had a range of lot sizes from 20,000 square feet to 4,962 square feet. So those are the types of developments that the city was contemplating in our recommendation. In addition, you had some conservation and open space developments where the county allows cluster development within certain zoning districts with certain parameters for open space and lot size and all that. The city also has an open space overlay as well, but it's not applied on this property. The proposed site plan is 38 units with a proposed front setback 15 feet, side of 5, rear 10 on the interior lots, and on the exterior lots that abut the roadways, it's 20. This is the proposed this is the location of the existing stream buffer, an existing power line easement, the detention facility to handle stormwater management for the site. There is a proposed right-of-way dedication of 5 feet along Pebblebrook, and a proposed right-of-way dedication along Buckner of 5 feet, as well as a sidewalk connection to Pebblebrook within the subdivision. With this request, per the comments of the Cobb County when we submitted the application to the county for accordance to our IGA agreement with them for annexations, their transportation staff requested a decel lane and a left in at the entrance, and that's reflected in this plan as well. This is location of the mail kiosk for the development. With this request, there are 7 variances. The first with front setback reduction from 35 feet to 15. The second to reduce the side setback from 10 feet to 5, reduce the interior rear setback from 30 to 10, and reduce the rear exterior from 30 to 20, and reduce the minimum lot size from 12,000 to 5,000, and to reduce the minimum lot width from 85 feet to 50 feet, and increase maximum lot coverage for the individual lots from 35% to 65%. With this proposed plan, there is approximately 37% open space associated with this. The applicant is proposing to maintain green space along Pebblebrook at the intersection of Buckner and along Buckner as you move south of the entrance, and then some open space over near the detention facility in the stream. There was a tree survey that was done with this site and a tree protection plan that was done as the initial application. It wasn't redone as subsequent versions of the plan came in to address concerns. The main area of concern is there is a large stand of mature trees in this in the southeastern corner. Most of them are specimen trees. And then there is some boundary trees on the adjoining property to the south. A boundary tree is basically a specimen tree that has its critical root system in the adjoining property that may potentially be affected by development. We did do a trip generation analysis for this site. At 38 units, based on IT manuals calculations, it's essentially 10 trips per weekday. You're looking at 363 trips per weekday. At a weekday AM peak, you're at 30 trips. A weekday PM peak, you're at 39. Saturday, you're up to, for the whole day, you're at 383 trips. And Saturday peak hour is 36 trips. And Sunday is 334 with a peak hour of 33. These are the proposed building elevations submitted by the applicant of the product they plan to build. And then pictures of the subject site. Oops, sorry. And then adjoining sites. Community Development recommends approval of the rezoning from R20 to R12 conditional on 12.7 acres at a density of 2.99 units per acre with the following conditions. Standard condition number 1 from section 1201, as it relates to the composition of the homes, no side can be 100% hardy plank. The sides that face an existing road cannot use hardy plank siding for that elevation. Number 2, the developer should provide an undisturbed buffer with a minimum width of 20 feet parallel to any right-of-way external to the development. Number 3, the detention pond should be placed and screened appropriately to be unobtrusive to homes inside and outside the development. Number 4, there should be protective covenants for all lots in the subdivision, so they have to establish an HOA. Number 5, the developer should provide at least 200 square feet of common space per lot, and then also amenitize that space. Number 6, all utilities within the development need to be underground. Number 7, the developer shall be responsible for any traffic improvements deemed necessary by the county and city during plan review. That'll include right-of-way dedication and the sidewalks that we discussed earlier. Number 8, there is a requirement for a deceleration lane at the entrance. Number 9, there should be a decorative entrance with either stamped concrete or brick pavers for a minimum width 20 feet. 10, the development of any streets shall conform to the city's minimum standards. 11, no debris shall be buried on any lots or common area. Number 12, the developer shall be responsible for the installation of decorative street lights along the public roads. Number 13, the developer will comply with the tree ordinance. 14 requires the landscape plans to be developed by a landscape architect. 15 requires all yards and common areas to be sodded. 16 establishes a tree planting schedule for each lot. And 17 is a requirement for an archaeological study, which has already been done at this point. Special conditions are also applied to this property. 18 deals with the minimum setbacks. We've reviewed those. 19 establishes the minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet. 20 establishes a minimum driveway length of 22 feet, and that's from the face of the garage to the back of sidewalk or curb. And that's to ensure the car is completely out of the sidewalk and not obstructing the sidewalk. 21, the development shall maintain a minimum lot width of 50 feet. 22, the impervious lot coverage should be 65% per lot. Maximum building height shall be limited to 35 feet. 24, the developer shall be required to meet all fire access requirements deemed necessary by the fire marshal. 25, the developer shall be responsible for any water and sewer improvements deemed necessary by Cobb County Water. 26, the developer shall be responsible for any stormwater improvements deemed necessary by the city engineer. 27 is the provision for a 5-foot sidewalk that connects to along Buckner Road. It connects to Pebblebrook and within the subdivision. 28 is the requirement for a 5-foot right-of-way dedication along both Buckner and Pebblebrook to bring those right-of-ways up to minimum standards for Cobb. 9 is the developer should provide a left-hand turn lane in and a right turn dedication lane on Buckner Road. And 30, the developer shall install curb and gutter along the frontage of Buckner Road. Those last 4 items are all items that Cobb County requested during their review of the application. And 31, the zoning of the property is tied to this specific site plan. If the developer wants any material change to this site plan, they will be required to come back to you and to the city council to request those changes. They won't be done administratively. 32, they're bound to the elevations that they submitted with their plan. And same applies for that. Any of these conditions, if they wish to change these conditions, they will have to come back to the city to request a modification. Those changes will not be handled administratively. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions for you.
All right. Thank you very much, Rusty. Any questions for Mr. Martin?
Mr. Martin, how many of the 38 lots that are non-conforming to R12 will need variances on all setbacks and will be 5,000 square feet?
He is requesting variances on all of them for setbacks.
So all of them could be 5,000 square feet?
No, it'd be tied to this plan as they reflected it.
Okay. So some of these are larger than 5,000 square feet, but none are smaller. Is that correct?
Right, 5,000 square feet will be the minimum lot size.
Okay.
We might be able to get the developer to
Yeah,
give us an
he'll
average
be
lot,
able to
that kind of
answer that
thing.
for you.
Yeah, any other questions?
Yes. Thank you for reviewing the areas around. So that one that was under 5,000 square feet, was that a townhome residence?
Shannon Downs?
Uh-huh.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. How many usable or buildable acres of the 37% that is being retained could be built on?
Outside of the stream buffer and everything pretty much outside of the stream buffer and the easement that bisects property on the north end.
So,
We didn't get that calculation from them on that.
okay. You said that you and the city engineer reviewed a trip generation program. Is that a program? What is that?
No,
You don't actually count cars, right?
No, the Institute of Traffic Engineers puts out a manual that they compiled the list of studies for every type of land use and how they analyze trip generations based on those land uses. So it's a compilation of many studies done on specific land uses. They're brought together and then they figure out what those land uses generally generate for the type of use that they're proposing.
So it's not a real study, it's just something out of a manual.
Yes, it's an analysis.
Okay.
It's not a survey.
I think what Mr. Monroe is saying is, did anybody do a traffic study at this?
No one was out there counting cars and saying and plus it's a proposed project. It's not on the ground. So
This is also a metrics that we use to evaluate any type of.
These are industry standards that are commonly used.
Okay.
Last, are there examples of other developments that Smyrna's used the Cobb County Smyrna intergovernmental agreement where we've come in from R20 with 10 to 12,000 or 20,000 square foot lots and dropped it down to 5?
If you're asking if we've annexed property and then reduced the lot size below what Cobb County required for their zoning, yes, we have.
As much as 30% of what they required?
I don't know.
Okay.
If you'd have sent me that question earlier today or Friday, I could have got you that answer. But if you look at Oakdale, if you look at Concord and Old Concord, I mean, that was an R20 lot that was brought in, R20 property that was brought in the city. The city sent notice of the annexation and rezoning to the county. The county makes its assessment, looks at our matrix that we have set up for future developments and what they can object to and what they can't. And they make the judgment as whether or not we meet that agreement.
Okay.
But yes, there are other instances where we've annexed property at a higher density or smaller lots than what the county would have allowed under their existing zoning classification.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Any other questions for Mr. Martin? All right. I do. Oh, hold on, Rusty. I'm sorry. I do have a question. You made mention earlier about the boundary trees, and you had the map up, and you said something to the effect of this wasn't redone after. What happened?
Well,
the original plan was different than this one. Is that what?
The original plan that was submitted in September was basically reflected the 41 lots and basically used all the area around that Buckner entrance into the south, and that's where all the specimen trees are located. Our arborist went out and in late September, I think on 25th or 29th, and went and did an assessment of these trees and said this is a healthy stand of specimen trees, and we should modify those trees to try to address this issue. And I think the adjoining property owners identified those trees and tried to get the applicant to address those issues. So they reduced the lots, and ultimately it looks like they've turned that area into open space. Now the extent to which the limits of disturbance and what those are to balance the site, I don't know what those true impacts are until they do the full engineering on the site.
All right, but this site plan at 38 units was reduced to protect this stand of trees, or?
It won't protect them all. I think looking at the plan and comparing it to where the location of those trees are, you may be affecting 3 or 4 of those trees based on where the hammerhead is for the fire truck turnaround.
Would they have affected with the original plan?
Oh, it probably would have wiped them all out.
Okay. Now, you said that Cobb County requested curb and gutter along Buckner Road.
Yeah.
Does that become a city maintenance issue after they request that?
No.
Oh, really?
Actually not, because we're not on the other side of Buckner Road.
Okay.
When the city is on both sides of a public thoroughfare, then it's our maintenance responsibility.
Okay.
When we're on one side and Cobb County is on the other side, it's maintained as a county road. So that's why their comments are essential to this, because ultimately they're going to be
Right.
Reviewing and approving the location of the entrance and the right-of-way improvements if it gets approved.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Sorry, I didn't mean to bombard you there. All right. Thank you, Mr. Martin. At this time, we'd like to have the applicant come forward, and by virtue of the nodding, I think I know who the applicant is. So come forward and tell us a little bit about your plan. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Grant Grimes. I'm with Beazer Homes. I am acting as the applicant. I will try to be brief, as I know many of my friends are here, and I want to make sure they have sufficient time. As has been well pointed out, it is a 12.72 acre site, 37% of which is being kept open. While we cannot get to the required 40% to be a true conservation subdivision without losing probably 3 more lots, which economically for us at this point anyway is not viable. We've tried to be as environmentally friendly as we can on the site. We've been respective of the stream on site and the required buffers. We're maintaining approximately 4 acres in the corner that's directly across the street from the Whitfield Academy entrance, We could build houses over there. We elected not to because that just didn't seem to us to be the right thing to do. By concentrating the homes in the center of the site, we've minimized the infrastructure that's disturbed. We've also, while our lot size is smaller and our setbacks are smaller than other homes in the area, the homes are clustered within the project so that visually it's not necessarily as visible as if these houses were lined up down the street. As was indicated, this site was initially planned with 63 townhomes, which we quickly realized that did not make sense and would not have been accepted by Cobb County or the city of Smyrna. So we then dropped it to 41 homes, which was the 3 units to the acre, a little over 3, but we could get 41 units based on feedback and after some conversations with some of the neighbors. We did, as Rusty indicated, we did modify what was originally a cul-de-sac into a hammerhead. We eliminated a lot there. We eliminated 2 lots at the entrance, so that's how we went from 41 to 38. And that did allow us to save, I think, all but perhaps 2 or 3 of the specimen trees. I talked to our engineers, who, all things being equal, like to get into it they like to get into a buffer and then replant it when they're done. I've instructed them that this 20-foot buffer between us and the Jones property to the south, we cannot get into that 20 feet. Now, that may mean we have to build some retaining walls in order to balance the site within that, but we will not get into that 20 feet. I can't tell you at this point if there's root zones that go beyond the 20 feet that might be disturbed. I don't know, but we're trying to be as respectful as we can. We are doing the turn lane, the decel lanes. As Rusty pointed out, it's difficult to do a traffic study on a proposed project because you don't know how many cars are actually going to come out until it's built. If it is of any benefit to the city, we're more than happy to do a traffic study to prove that the traffic on Buckner is bad. We don't expect a lot of revelation out of that, but we're more than happy to pay for that if that is of any benefit to the city. As I indicated before, we're looking for R12 conditional. The conditions really allow us to be more like a conservation subdivision and be respectful. Because of the stream buffer and the 100-foot power easement and our desire to not affect the tree stand directly across from Whitfield Academy, things are in fact clustered in. Homes are pushed more to the interior. We are barely, but we are under the 3 units to the acre, so we are in compliance with the future land use map. The difference between Cobb's plan at 2.5 and City of Smyrna at 3 is fairly minimal. Both, as Rusty indicated, are in fact low-density residential. Our lots are as small as 5,000. They're not all 5,000. Some are larger than that, but they are. But that's, again, because of the consolidation and the attempt to be respectful of the environment. The homes that we plan to build here, you've seen pictures of them. They range from 2,500 square feet to over 3,200, almost 3,300 square feet. So they're fairly large homes. We anticipate those at this point to sell in the 415 to 470 range, which is significantly above anything that's selling in terms of existing homes for the most part in the 2 to 3 mile radius. And I checked that as recently as this evening. Existing homes are going in the 360, 370 range. So we're going to be above that.
Existing homes for that square footage? Hold on, hey. Existing homes for the same square footage? Are you talking about older homes? Or are you talking about?
I looked at all the existing home sales, irrespective of size.
Of size or?
3 to 5 mile radius.
Okay. All right, well, keep going. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I felt like everybody else is going to, so I may as well jump in.
I understand. Unfortunately, the software I've got doesn't allow me to filter down by square footage per se, at least not within the time frame that I had before the meeting. I'm happy to answer questions.
Yeah.
Again, I want to be respectful of time, so I will shut up at this point.
Well, you may have more opportunity than you think here. Any questions for Mr. Grimes at this point? Anybody?
Mr. Grimes, yeah, real quick, the lots 18 1920, will those be basement lots? Perhaps that can, down by the stream buffer.
I don't know.
No?
I think the only basement lots right now are probably going to be in the center of the site. I can't see the numbers, but I want to say it's like 32 to, see if I can find a better site plan. You see it? 32 to 38.
32 to 38.
There's a row in the middle that back to each other.
Okay.
The ones on the uphill side could be basements.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Bartlett? No? Anybody else on my left? I said on my left.
I didn't
want to turn and look and then go back. Sorry. Monty, you look like you got a question on your mind. Are you good? Okay. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Murray.
Mr. Grimes, I understand you have a development on Pebblebrook Lane, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you went through Cobb County Planning and Zoning with that? And
That was a property that we purchased when we bought Venture Homes as an entity.
Okay.
So they had actually gone through the zoning before we were involved with it. But yeah, presumably they had to go through the county.
yeah, what is the designation zoning?
I believe it's R15. Yeah.
Did
The
Cobb-
lots are about 7,500 square feet.
Is that what Cobb County required you to do?
Again, that was an entity that we purchased, so I don't know the details. I don't know negotiations, if any, that went on, or if Venture, when they.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Grimes? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If you would just take a seat, we're not going to have public comment on that's a joke, sorry. Just getting a fresh page, guys. That's all I'm doing. Buying a little time. All right. This is the time for public comment. If there's anyone in attendance that would like to come forward and speak in favor of or opposition to this application, now is the time. If you would come forward one at a time, please, none of that, please. It's hard enough for me to see what's on the screen. And now, in full disclosure, I'm going to make the assumption you are Tyler.
That's right.
Yes. And I made the assumption because it's Tyler Sniff?
It's Sniff, like if you had the sniffles.
Sniff, okay. I did speak with him, I believe, yesterday. This morning?
I believe yesterday.
Yesterday, whatever. It's not important. The purpose of the call was he is representing a number of you. And in fairness to him and his presentation, I wanted to give him as much opportunity as possible, but that requires those that he's representing to yield their time. So if he is representing you, then you are yielding your time to him, okay? All right, now who else that Mr. Sniff is not representing is here that would like to come forward and speak? If you would, please either raise your hand or stand up or come to the front of the room at this time. Okay, so now is the time, sir. So what we're going to do is we're going to save the balance of the time after we have whoever he's not representing come up and speak. We'll let him do his presentation, and then we may have some more questions and answers up here. Okay, is everybody cool with that? Good, because I get to decide. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kevin Bracher. I'm at 5134 Parkwood Oaks Lane. I'm a resident of Smyrna, have been for 13 years. But I'm actually speaking today more out of my role as the head of school at Whitfield Academy, and just wanted to share a little bit about kind of our thoughts regarding the change in zoning. So Whitfield, as many of you may know, so we've been in Smyrna over 20 years. We have over 850 students, most of them coming from Smyrna. We have over 900 alumni. Many of them are returning to Smyrna to live and work, and we have over 160 employees. And we are proud to be in Smyrna. We have enjoyed being a part of this city, and we really sense a great deal of support from all of you all, and just it's been a great journey for us being a part of Smyrna. And so just want to say thank you, and we're proud to be in Smyrna. We are not in the business of opposing zonings and things like that. In the 20 years that we've been in existence, we have never opposed a zoning. So this will be the first one. This piece of property is right across the street from us. The reason why we thought it was important to speak up is because this is right across the street from us, and we, viewed the comprehensive plans and kind of looked at everything, the plans for the future, and we were excited about all the plans for the future, and even in saying opposition, really what we would like to say, more than opposing this, though we do, is to say we support the plans for the future that have been developed for Smyrna and for Cobb County. And we would just encourage you all to stick with that R20 zoning. And I know that we would be, from the folks, various stakeholders that have been talking to me, they would be very open to development at the R20 level across the street from us. And so that's really our main point as a school, is to say we support the plans for the future. We support keeping it at the R20 level. I did want to mention also that this is so important to us that we actually had a scheduled board meeting tonight. And so our Board of Trustees has come here to sort of reinforce this support of the future of Smyrna and Cobb County. And I thank you so much for your service and for hearing my comments.
Well, and I appreciate you putting a positive spin on it and not taking a negative road. So that's much appreciated from where we sit. All right, thank you, sir. Hold on, we've got don't be cutting people off now. Good evening and welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mark Hall. I live at 651 Vinings Estates Drive. Couple of comments, and I'll try to keep it very brief. I was as thorough as the analysis was done on all of the houses around, showing the comparison of the different zoning sizes and lot square footages. I found it very odd and compelling that Vinings Estates was left out of that entire analysis, where there's over 1,000 homes. I think there's 1,200 single-family homes in that neighborhood, which is in very close proximity, actually closer to some of the neighborhoods on the far end of Buckner that were referenced as well. As a matter of fact, as the crow flies, Vinings Estates is probably one of the closest neighborhoods to this proposed development, as it sits directly behind Whitfield Academy. As a profession, I'm a real estate developer by trade, so typically when I'm in these kind of hearings, I'm usually sitting here as the applicant and not as somebody who's either supporting or speaking against these kind of developments. However, being a developer, I understand zoning requirements and sizes and all of the kind of setbacks and those kind of things. And what this proposal stood out to me as very odd and extremely concerning was the sizing of not necessarily the rezoning classification from R20 to R12, but the variances that are associated with the reduction from R12 to basically a 5,000 square foot lot, which currently that zoning classification in Cobb County or City of Smyrna for residential housing pretty much is non-existent. So in the zoning reclassification and then the variances that are attached to these, this proposal, the applicant in effect is asking you as the zoning committee to basically rewrite the zoning ordinances that are currently in Cobb County and the City of Smyrna. Just to point out a couple of quick facts and numbers, I did a very quick analysis on current R12 zoning allowances, right? There's 7 or 8 major things, anything from minimum lot size, floor area, lot coverage, lot width, minimum setback from the street, from the sides, and from the rear. Just to give you guys some very clear numbers. On minimum lot size, R12 is 12,000 feet. The request by the applicant is 5,000 square feet. That's 60% below the R12 allocation. The minimum floor area is 1,900 square feet. There's no variance request there. In effect, what's going to happen, though, is with the 5,000 square foot lot, when you build a 3,000 square foot house on it, it's effectively be putting a house on what the lot would essentially look like a postage stamp. The maximum lot coverage is being requested from 35% to 65%. That's an 86% increase from the current zoning allotment to the variance request. In a sense, there's basically going to be almost no green space around the house at all. You're basically going to have a house, with almost zero lot lines. The minimum lot width is going from 85 feet to 50 feet, which is a 41% decrease. Minimum setbacks from the street, 40 feet to 15 feet. That's a 63% decrease from the current zoning standard. Minimum setbacks from the sides, 10 feet to 5 feet. In a sense, you put houses 5 feet from the setbacks that densely close together, people can almost reach out and touch their neighbor's house from their own window. Minimum setback from the rear, 30 feet to 10 feet. That's a 67% decrease in the zoning allotment that currently exists today. So, again, just trying not to put emotion into this, just give you guys the facts and the numbers with some very real ratios of what exists today. And let's keep in mind that it's currently zoned at R20. It's being requested to reduce to 12 and then effectively be rewritten to something over 60% less than what the current zoning calls for today. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hall. Anybody else? Yeah, come on. Just another guy that cut off a lady on the way to the microphone. It's okay. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, and thank you everybody for caring so much and being here. I don't know, I'm not sure what Tyler wants to say. I think he kind of represents our idea. We are not opposing the developer's plans.
Can you state your name and address to the record,
sorry,
please?
forgot the rules. My name is Priscilla Huber, and I live in 774 Creekland Road in Brookmere West, so on Buckner Road.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. The reason why we're here is because one of the reasons why we buy our house is because of those trees over there. I remember having to drive there and thinking, oh my gosh, this little curvy stuff is worth it if we have to come by this area. And we were very glad that there were houses there already. These are great grand oaks, or I don't know the name of the trees really, but they are beautiful. If you go right now to see them, it's like whatever, but in the spring they are amazing, and I think they deserve respect. And I think if they tear them down, my kids will have to wait 50 years to see them again. And it's for the future of my kids, because I am a mom of 4, so I'm here to talk for them. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming out. All right.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening and welcome.
Hi again. Chris Weifel, 3289 Lee Street. Just have one quick comment. I also believe that this rezoning request should be at least tabled until the City Council has decided whether to approve the new proposed tree ordinance. This commission itself approved the new revised ordinance by a vote of 4-1. The revised tree ordinance will probably have a significant impact on large developments such as Buckner. The council is likely to decide the revised ordinance fate at the next council meeting. What harm can come from waiting to see what the council does? The new rules are coming, and the Buckner Road development, if approved, should have to follow them. While I do not support this rezoning request, in the least, this rezoning request should be tabled and should be following the new proposed tree ordinance rules if they pass the council. Thanks.
Thank you for coming back out, Chris. Anybody else not represented by Mr. Sniff? Good evening and welcome.
My name is Tamara Eaton, and my husband and I, Robert, have lived at 5295 Whitehaven Park Lane in Vinings Estates for 20 years. Our kids attend Whitfield Academy, and my concern is if you approve this, it is opening up, as somebody else said with an argument earlier tonight, it's opening Pandora's box because there are so many beautiful areas up and down Pebblebrook that developers are going to submit their applications tomorrow for rezoning to get, and it's just going to go on and on and on. And I don't want to keep coming to these meetings, even though y'all look lovely. But as a mom, I have drivers that are teenagers, and that corner right there, it's very scary. I mean, the hill coming down Pebblebrook, it's very scary as a mom of teenage drivers. And you've got, now you're talking about adding all these extra homes. And so I know change is coming, but I would just say, keep it to the R20 or whatever lingo you guys use, but don't go smaller.
Thank you very much for your comments, Tamara. All right. Anybody else not represented by Mr. Sniff? All right, Mr. Sniff, it's your party. I want to. Tyler Sniff.
That's right.
There's a very famous person with a very similar name, just so you know. Just let everybody work with that. All right, grab that microphone, will you, so we can all hear you.
Thank you. With the chair's permission, I'd like to approach with some exhibits I'd like to publish to the record and hand out to the board members.
That's fine. Yeah, we already have the information you sent earlier today. We have all of that information. Okay.
And if I could indulge Rusty to pull up my PowerPoint.
All right, buddy. Go.
All right. Good evening. My name's Tyler Sniff. I'm the attorney for the Concerned Citizens Group behind me. I also have the privilege to be a resident of Smyrna in Ward 7. About 3 years ago, my wife and I moved to the Enclave at Oakdale community, which is off of Oakdale Road. I'm going to try and be as brief as possible. I think this will be about 15, maybe 17 minutes. The Concerned Citizens Group is a group of about 115 Smyrna and Mableton residents. I represent about 45 residents of Vinings Estates, and when I say represent, I mean they've signed on to a formal letter of legal arguments in opposition. I'm also here on behalf of my HOA. I've been given authority from my board to be here on behalf of my community. We have about 100 homes in Ward 7. Additionally, I'm here on behalf of the immediately adjacent property owners, which is the Jones family, Chris Jones, to my left here, Michael Jones, if you could raise your hand. They've lived, their last name is Jones, but they are actually Buckners. They're the namesake of Buckner Road. They're the descendants of the Buckners, which had originally settled the area and lived there for many, many years. Finally, the remaining members of the group are residents of the surrounding low-density residential R15 and R20 neighborhoods. Vinings Place, Buckland Oaks, Pebblebrook Acres. You already heard from Dr. Bratcher, and I just want to note that, again, Whitfield Academy is directly across the street and has submitted a letter of concern. Finally, there is a petition that was put out there. We currently have 725 signatures. Of those, I went through today to try and sort out how many are actually Smyrna Mableton residents. About 300 of those 725 signatures are Smyrna Mableton residents. This is just a graphic I put together to show where the concerned citizens live in relation to the proposed development. I just want to spend a minute on history, because I think history is really important when we talk about Smyrna. You know, I'm looking at the city seal here, 1872. History is important to us living in Smyrna, and I think it's important in this case. The Buckners, as I mentioned, these are some pictures of the original Buckners. This was a dairy farm for decades. At the bottom left, you can see an overlay of the site in relation to some of the concerned homeowners' lots, just to give you a sense for how would this actually fit into the character of those lots in the neighborhood. The lots to the north are in Vinings Estates in Ward 7 of Smyrna. The lots that you see in yellow to the east, to the right, so to speak, are in Buckland Oaks, which is an R20 neighborhood of Cobb County. We're talking very nice homes, some over $1 million. And then adjacent to it, as I mentioned, is Pebblebrook Acres, which is also R20 Cobb County. These beautiful young children here are Chris's kids. He gave me permission to include them in the PowerPoint. I just include this because Chris and his family actually own the immediately adjacent parcel. It's about 14 acres. They have no intent of developing this. Chris actually has plans to build his future forever home there. They still visit the property. Michael Jones lives across the street from the proposed development, has for decades. They're here to stay. They have no interest in developing their parcel. This is just to give you a flavor as we sit here in this government building of what the site is like. The trees that were mentioned, the picture in the top right is a Civil War trench that's located on the Jones property. Some Civil War artifacts are in the bottom left, and there's even a piece of Native American pottery that was found on the property. So getting to the heart of the matter, appreciate you indulging me on that background. The first argument we want to make is that the proposed development's inconsistent with the surrounding neighborhoods. This is a chart I put together of the neighborhoods of the people that I represent, and this is has listed out the minimum lot size, density, zoning. Rusty went through several of these. Again, I note that I think one of the most important neighborhoods was not mentioned by the city, Vinings Estates, directly adjacent to the north. That Vinings Estates is probably the biggest neighborhood in Ward 7. The minimum lot size in Vinings Estates is about 10,000 square feet, but many lots in Vinings Estates are much, much larger than that. The point I want to make on this slide is the median density in the area is just over 2 units an acre. And I left a few of the ones on Rusty's chart out. Even if you include those, the median density does not change. It's pretty much exactly at 2.08 units per acre. The median lot size, when you go and do the math, is over 10,000 square feet. And you can see there most of the zonings are R20 and R15. So the point being that this proposal is a full 1 unit per acre more dense, which would work out to be about a dozen more homes than is consistent with the character of the nearby neighborhoods. And the median lot size would be the proposed lot size compared to the median minimum lot size is half of what is in the area. So it's a pretty substantial departure. The second point I want to make is the city went through a extensive comprehensive planning process just a couple years ago. 2017, I think in around 2017, the 2040 city plan was put together. The city, Mr. Martin and the applicant have stated that this proposal is consistent with the city plan. Respectfully, that's not true. Our position, when you go through the city plan, the city actually, in its plan, thinks about future annexations. This is a chart from the city comprehensive plan. It identifies the areas for potential annexations because the city, obviously, we'd like for the city to keep growing. And then it looks at those parcels and identifies a future development category. The little red box is the parcel at issue. This is, again, from the city comprehensive plan. It's slated for suburban residential future development. Well, what does that mean? There's actually a chart in the city comprehensive plan, and that's the second red box up there. Suburban residential is classified as R30, R20, or R15. R12 is not suburban residential. This is not consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. We had a town hall hosted by Councilman Wheaton on Sunday at Vinings Estates. I think about maybe 15 or 20 people were there. Beazer was there as well. It was, I think, contentious but civil. But one notable comment was made during that town hall that I wanted to bring to your attention. A resident of Vinings Estates who I've spoken to a couple times about this proposed development, he lives in Vinings Estates. He happens to be the director of land acquisition for David Weekley Homes, who has developed subdivision up the street. This individual said his concern was that if the city approves this project with the minimum lot size, the setbacks, the variances, that his company will, I'm not here to state definitively, but he said will likely push 5 to 6, I think he said, projects along Buckner and Pebblebrook Road with similar density and lot sizes. And I think it's fair to say a lot of people here tonight are here not just because of this proposal, but because of that future concern. And I think I can't state it better than a developer himself did on Sunday. The gentleman that spoke before me, I think, hit some of these points really well, so I'll try and be brief. But to seek variances, as I'm sure you know, one of the criteria in the zoning code is that the variance be the minimum necessary for a reasonable use of the property. The variances requested violate that section. These are not the minimum necessary to make a reasonable use of this property. The proposal is R12 in name only. Most of the lots are 5,000 square feet, not 12,000 square feet. And I tried to I don't know this for sure, but I tried to pull the site plan into Google Earth and look at the larger lots. I didn't find a single lot that met 12,000 square foot requirement for R12. Not a single lot. So this is really R12 and name only. No zoning district in the city permits the setbacks requested. So this isn't just requesting a variance on a setback that would be allowed in R8 or R10. There is not a single zoning district in the city of Smyrna zoning ordinance that would allow for these kind of setbacks, 10-foot rear, 15-foot front. Again, and likewise, there is no zoning district in the zoning ordinance that allows for more than 45 to 50% impervious lot coverage. They're proposing 65%. The broader point being, it's our position that it's not lawful to permit a variance from basically every requirement of a zoning district just to help the applicant achieve the maximum density in a given district. A zoning district's about more than just density. It's about setbacks. It's about lot size. It's about character of the community. The citizens, we actually spent thousands of dollars on a civil site planner. We sat down with Beazer about a month ago at my office. We had a R20 and an R15 plan that after our meeting we sent to them. And they categorically rejected it, as far as I understand. At the town hall meeting on Sunday, we also asked if Beazer would be willing to consider traffic improvement projects in the area as part of this development. And we, as far as I can say standing here today, have the answer that we got was no. This is a copy of one of our R20 plans we put together. And then this is a copy of it's an R12 plan, but it's very similar to R15s. Several of the lots are 15,000 square feet or close. The important point I want to make about our site plan is in our group is we are not categorically opposed to development. We have put out real plans out here, plans that would protect the entire stand of specimen trees in the corner, as you can see, and plans that would be consistent, we feel, with the neighboring area. I think it's an important point with regard to the trees that the zoning ordinance requires a tree protection plan to be submitted with a rezoning application. And the development has to be in strict compliance with that plan. The tree protection plan has not been updated, despite what has been said about the lots, some of the lots being moved around. The current tree protection plan before you proposes to remove every single one of those 21 specimen oaks. Some of these oaks are as large as 54 inches. We went to the trouble to hire an expert arborist. He also happens to be the contract city arborist for the city of Alpharetta. Not going to read this whole big quote in the interest of time, but what's important, I think, is that the zoning ordinance for the city of Smyrna, I'm sorry, the tree protection ordinance, has a concept that's called specimen tree stand. So you have individual trees that might be great specimen oaks, but then you also have the concept of a specimen tree stand. And what that is defined as is a group of trees that have great environmental or historical significance, not individually, but as a unit. This arborist, again, he's a city arborist in another city, said that these trees as a group classify for specimen tree stand and deserve to be protected as a entire group, not just 6 of them, not just 10 of them, all of them. He said, quote, "If allowed to be removed, this would be a great ecological and historical loss." I want to make 2 other points on the trees for why we feel that this violates the tree ordinance. One, the tree ordinance recognizes that some accommodations have to be made for development as it relates to trees. But what it says is that, quote, "It is required that all reasonable efforts be made to save specimen trees," and it even goes on to specify that reasonable efforts shall include alternate location of buildings and development areas. That, again, the applicant's current tree protection plan that's before you today does not make any efforts, let alone reasonable efforts, to save those specimen trees. It proposes to remove every single one of those trees. Additionally, one of the exhibits I gave the city clerk was, so setting aside the plan before you, I took their modified site plan and I laid it over the aerial image to see how would the 38 unit plan, what would that do to that specimen tree stand? And I had my arborist look at that as well. And unfortunately, he's not here tonight, but his opinion to me was that when you overlay the modified 38 unit plan over top the existing group of specimen trees, that it would take out many of those trees. And I think to figure out if more than them would be removed than that, I think would require more review by an arborist. I actually reached out to Robert Brett Schneider, this contract arborist for the city of Smyrna, and asked him about this. And he said, he was very careful to say, this isn't the official opinion of the city of Smyrna arborist, but he basically said, quote, "I would need to see a greater detailed plan to work around those trees. A plan that would include grading, limits of disturbance, so on and so forth." So the basic point we're making is that in its current format, this plan is not consistent with the tree protection ordinance. Two final areas I want to talk about: traffic in schools. I'm sure you guys, you honorable board members, hear about traffic in almost every matter that comes before you. Respectfully, we feel this is different. This is beyond your normal Atlanta traffic problem. I really encourage you to, in the morning, take a trip to Whitfield Academy and take a look at Pebblebrook and Buckner and Oakdale roads in the morning and evening, which is when the majority of us are on the roads. It is beyond the pale of normal traffic. I work downtown, and what dictates my commute most often as to whether it's 20 minutes or an hour is not what happens downtown, but what happens on Oakdale and Buckner roads, which is I can throw a football from my house to those roads. These are just to give you some context again.
How far can you throw a football?
Well, now I have to reassess that. maybe hit a golf shot.
This could go to credibility here.
Yeah. Very good point, Chairman Powell. These are just, again, to give you a flavor, because I know we're sitting in an office building. I took some pictures last week. The one on the left is Buckner Road at the intersection where this development would be, facing Oakdale during the AM peak. It's just a line of cars that stretches from where the proposed development would be all the way up to Oakdale. The picture on the right is a picture of right outside my exit to my community on Oakdale, facing the intersection of Buckner. Again, it's a stream of cars from the top of that hill all the way down to Buckner Road. But that's just anecdotal. What's the actual government agency said about this traffic problem? Again, they've said it's beyond the normal Atlanta traffic problem. The Cobb Comprehensive Transportation Plan assigned a level of service grade of F to Oakdale. It's the worst grade you can get. Buckner was given a D, and that's Buckner at Pebblebrook. The Atlanta Regional Commission, that looks at not just local transportation problems like Cobb, but regional transportation problems, identified Oakdale at Buckner as a congested road, and that's the Atlanta Regional Commission. There's another plan cited there that also mentions that improvements need to be made to accommodate expected traffic increases. That's the Cobb Riverline Master Plan. So the point I want to make is that, again, the 30 weekday AM trips and 39 PM trips, okay, additionally. I'm not here standing before you to necessarily rebut those figures. I will say that I think it would be valuable to get some current traffic counts in the general area. I think that would be tremendously beneficial because, from my perspective and a lot of the concerned citizens, for example, a lot of people use these roads more during the weekday than the weekend a lot of times because Whitfield Academy is not in school on the weekends. So that's just a real world point that what are the actual real world numbers here? But the larger point on traffic is that any contribution to this problem is significant. Whether it's 30 cars, 40 cars, 50 cars, that's a significant, that is contributing a significant amount to the problem. Finally, on traffic, it's the position of our group that, again, we're not opposed to all development, but this level of development that's before you today not occur until there's real progress towards traffic solutions. There is several projects on the SPLOST list for this area, Oakdale, Buckner, Pebblebrook. One of these was a Tier 1 Smyrna 2016 SPLOST project. It was $1.5 million for Oakdale improvements and a congestion relief study. A county Tier 2 project for a roundabout at Pebblebrook, which is that really nasty intersection that a couple people mentioned. I submitted open records requests to the city and county and said, hey, what's the status of those projects? Because if there's going to be real solutions, maybe traffic's not a concern. What I got back was literally nothing. Nothing has been done on those SPLOST projects. I got the 2022 draft SPLOST list for the county, which had the draft SPLOST list for Smyrna. There was no projects on that 2022 SPLOST list for Oakdale, Buckner, or Pebblebrook. So there is no relief in sight as far as we're concerned. The last argument that I want to stress is the impact on local schools. So I live in Enclave at Oakdale, as I mentioned, and many of the concerned citizens who live in this area as well, we are actually zoned for Pebblebrook High School and Lindley Middle School. We're not zoned for Campbell or Nickajack, like Vinings Estates. Though there's a well-known overcrowding problem at Pebblebrook and Lindley. In a 2019 capacity study by the Cobb County School District found that Pebblebrook was over 600 students over capacity. There was a mention to the Beezer project just up the street on Pebblebrook called Vining Summit. When that went through Cobb County, the school district submitted comments on that development, which is being built out by Beezer right now. What the county said and this is from the zoning documents, was that that development, which is similar in terms of price point and demographics, the Cobb County School District said that that would be, quote, cause for concern for the school district as it would result in an impact on enrollment for schools already over capacity. That's not coming from me. That's not coming from an expert I hired. That's coming from the Cobb County School District 2 years ago on a development right up the street that Beazer Homes is building out currently. In conclusion, again, I thank you for your time. It's an honor to be here. I'm privileged to be a resident of Smyrna. I want to mention in closing that we have tried to compromise. I do zoning cases for a living. I get that it's a lot of times it's what can you sit down and work out with the developer? Well, we weren't able to reach a compromise here. We sat down. We went to the lengths of preparing site plans, hiring arborists. We got nowhere with the developer. Respectfully, we'd ask you to deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sniff. Are there any further questions for the applicant? Anybody up here have any questions based on the information we've just received? Rusty, can we ask the attorney questions? The problem is he has an interest, even though he's an attorney, and can he answer questions from us? I mean, is that appropriate? Yeah, their attorney versus the applicant. Normally, I mean, if you were a citizen, it'd be one thing, which you are, but you're obviously representing a group. So, I mean, I just don't know how appropriate that is for this setting, and I don't want to break any rules. Is there a problem with? And see what he says? All right, yeah. Yeah, very true, very true. All right.
The R12 plan had 20 homes. The R20 plan, I believe, had 13 lots.
All right. Did everybody hear the question? Okay. Could you answer it again, please?
Yes. The question was the alternative site plans that the citizens put forth, and I should mention at the outset that I have a lot of buy-in for the R20 plan, but I want to be very clear, the R12 plan was a compromise plan that we put forth. Again, we don't think that plan is even consistent with the city plan, comprehensive plan, or the requirements, but we put that out as a compromise plan. I don't have full buy-in for that plan, but the R12 plan had 20 lots. The R12 plan had 20 lots. The R20 plan had 13 lots. And the goal was to look at Vinings Estates, look at Buckland Oaks, and try and put together something that is consistent with the feel of that area. And that's what we were trying to achieve, while also saving those 20 trees in the corner.
I think I also read that you did an effective density analysis of the lot, because we use a gross calculation versus a net calculation, or a net is the same as an effective density. What was the calculation on that? What does it come out as
the effective? I believe they're building the 38 lots on about 9 acres or so. I think Grant would be better to speak to that, but the effective density on those 9 acres would be above 4 units an acre.
Okay, thank
you. So, yep.
Any other questions? Okay. So, by my calculation, you'll have to work with me for just a minute. The applicant took about 6 minutes of time, and we're moving somewhere in the neighborhood of about 30 minutes for everybody else. So, if the applicant would like to come back and answer any of the questions that have been brought forth, now is that time. But you don't have to.
No, I understand. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Couple of quick things. The gentleman who spoke toward the end of the town hall meeting the other day is with David Weekley Homes. He is head of development, not acquisition, and there is quite a distinction there between those two titles. He also was very proud in telling everyone that his role is as mentor and guide. He said, I don't actually do anything. That way I can't get in trouble. You'd have to understand him to appreciate that, but that was his comment, so I share that for what it's worth. His move in trying to get our zoning denied he's clearly.
Let's not. There's tons of motive there on both sides. Just skip beyond this person, please.
The site plans that Mr. Sniff mentioned, I think we briefly saw them when we were together. He did not share them with us. We did not, in the meeting, deny an ability or a willingness to look at track improvements. We indicated there was some concern as to what could be done based on the jurisdictions and the municipalities which would have to buy into it, but we're certainly open to looking at that. We're happy to pay for a traffic analysis, which unfortunately, excuse me, will not provide any guidance as to what traffic is going to be entering from the community onto the road. All it's going to be doing is substantiating that the road at Buckner is bad. But we're happy to pay for that if that is the desire of the committee here. And he is correct that our tree plan that is currently on file does not reflect the most recent site plan. We are more than happy to revise that plan to put it into conformance with the current site plan, which will show that we are saving the majority of the trees on that corner.
Yeah, and I believe that we could affect that administratively here. Any questions for the applicant? Anything else you want to add, Mr. Grimes?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Anything else? Okay. My tongue's sticking to the top of my mouth. I want to applaud everybody in the room. I don't know how many people are here. It's a whole bunch, and it's a whole bunch more than we normally get to see. But you guys have been respectful of our time. It's a great community we live in, right? And so these are the most difficult things that we see on a monthly basis: property rights, quality of life, our tree canopy, which is very important to all of us. If you were lucky enough to be here a month or so ago, you saw how important it was to me. But in all seriousness, this is a huge issue, what we deal with up here. And yeah, if this development got approved, you guys would be neighbors, and you'd have more neighbors, right? And the traffic issue, it's Atlanta. And Mr. Sniff, I appreciate the invitation to come down there on a given morning, but I am so averse to traffic that I get in hives. And I literally could walk from my office to my house and about all of my projects in less than 10 minutes. So I have no desire to come down there and witness that evidence of those pictures. I know the area very well. But these are difficult decisions to make, and everybody up here, they're up here because they care about this community, much like you guys care about Ward 7. When we're up here, we're hearing things for all 7 wards. So I do appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate you guys being organized and respectful of our time, and the level of professionalism from the applicant and everybody in the room should be applauded. We do have a great community here in Smyrna, Georgia. All right. Any further discussion? Anything anybody would like to add or subtract from what I just said? Okay. In the absence of further discussion, I would like to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I want to, first of all, thank my fellow citizens of Ward 7 and those around us for coming out tonight. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve you for the last 4 years as your Zone 7 Planning and Zoning Commission. We've seen a lot that has turned out at times. Other than Williams Park, I think you're the biggest group we've seen in 4 years, or at least I've seen. So thank you for your commitment and your involvement. This is our last meeting of the year, and Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank you and city staff and all that are concerned, that have been concerned. Our city engineer is here, and thank you, Kevin Moore, for being here and being a part of that. So thank you all for being a part of this for the last 4 years that I've been on it. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to deny 6 rezoning from R20 to R12 conditional for the development of 38-unit subdivision on 12.7 acres located at 1465 Buckner Road.
Okay. I have a motion to deny this application by Mr. Monroe, but the computer has it all screwed up. So I need a second. Thank you. We have a second. Ms. Lightfoot, please vote. Regardless how this turns out, you'll be as respectful before and after, please. We all have to go out of here, hopefully safely. This motion to deny has been supported 7-0. Really? All right. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the November 11th, 2019 Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as presented? Motion to accept, Mr. Bartlett. Second. Ladies and gentlemen, please, we're still having a meeting up here. Mr. Bai, get the second. Please vote to approve the minutes. Okay, the minutes are approved 7-0. Now, before we leave, Mr. Monroe spoke for a couple minutes there. It is the last meeting of the year, and in a lot of ways, this is the last meeting this group will be together. I wrote a few things here. I'll read through them, and I may add to it. But we've been together for, most of us, for about 4 years. Some of us just shy of that. Some of us for 10 years or more. And I just want to take a moment to recognize everybody up here. Your commitment, your input, your service to Smyrna, I just greatly appreciate it. While we don't always agree on every issue, we all have a common bond in protecting and improving our wonderful city. I've been honored to chair this board with you guys. And, you know, I just really appreciate what each and every one of you bring to the table, whether we agree or not. That's what's fantastic. When we walk away, we all know we're doing it for the greater good of Smyrna. And then I also want to thank staff. You guys do a fabulous job. I wrote in my notes earlier, you guys do a fabulous job of making my jobs really difficult, but you guys do a fabulous job of presenting these very difficult and challenging issues. You're trying to marry up something between a plan from 20 years ago, what's happening right now, and what we're planning to do in 20 years. And that is an extremely thankless and difficult position, and I really appreciate the effort and energy you guys put into it every month. So it's much appreciated. I appreciate each and every one of you individually, and I am going to close this meeting at 7:55 in the p.m. That was an appropriate time to cheer.
All right, we can do a picture downstairs.
Yeah, we'll get somebody from